and welcome to another episode of HR and Payroll 2.0. This will be one of those still rare episodes where I'm flying solo without my inspirational analyst co-host, Pete Tiliakis. This episode comes from some on-the-road interviews at a large HR conference and event in October. It was the Michigan Society for Human Resources Management, the Michigan SHRM, and it actually drew a crowd of about 825 HR leaders and professionals to Grand Rapids, Michigan in the Amway Conference Center. So huge, wonderful turnout, lots of conversations, great engaged people. It was just a blast, and I look forward to doing it a lot more in the future. Some of you may know Michigan is my home state, and I have a son that lives there, just about a 2-hour drive from me in Metro Detroit. So I was speaking at a session in Grand Rapids where he lives. The session was navigating the future of HR, and it talked a lot about HR technology and automation. So yes, AI stuff. And I captured a few recordings and some different conversations when I was there. So this episode is a 3-part podcast. The first 2 are some Showtime recordings with colleagues from Brown & Brown that were there, and I pulled them aside and asked them a little bit about the hot topics and what folks were talking about and interested in the most. Brown & Brown sponsors that event. They were there in spades. So the first interview was with Kevin Cumings and Amy Gerard, who are from that local Grand Rapids office, and they were talking about the hot topics and what they were hearing. And then the next 10 minutes were spent with Tyrone Jordan, TJ, from the Brown & Brown office in Troy, Michigan, which is on my side of the state. And in honesty, I did 2 other remote recordings with folks from Alight and from iSolved and also from Paychex. But sadly, the recordings weren't usable, so I totally flubbed them and totally missed those. After the 2 10-minute segments where you'll hear about benefits enrollment and culture and engagement as kind of the highlights, I thought it would be fun to cut over to an interview with my favorite source of Gen Z intel, my own 20-something kids. My middle son, Nico, he goes by, lives in Grand Rapids, and so I had some time to get his thoughts and always probing to see what he sees as typical in his age group, not only with his 2 siblings, but with friends and colleagues. And so buckle up for another look through the Gen Z lens.
I just thought we would grab a quiet corner and talk a little bit about some of the HR trends and what folks are talking about. We're getting to the end of the year here, and there's been 10 months now of people trying to figure out how they're going to transform their organizations. Maybe, I don't know, let's start with what do you guys hear the most from folks that you're working with, and what are some of the things they're most interested in for HR?
Go ahead, Kevin.
I was going to say, if you want to go for it.
I think cost is important to people, and creating a really diverse culture of inclusion is important to people right now.
I think we're still, and I would agree with what you just said, I think we're still having the repercussions of the effects of COVID on workforces, and people learning to deal with remote work and how to manage a staff with that, and how to manage
a culture too.
That would be huge. I would think, in your session you said that maybe HR are less worried about attracting and retaining employees, but my experience is that's still a big issue. And one of the things that I see a lot of our HR members that we work with dealing with is culture, as far as creating a climate where we can attract particularly younger employees to enjoy, have fun at, even
want to be there,
want to be connected to. That's a big driving force for a lot of the HR managers we work with, and benefits is certainly a part of that, but it's not the only part. And they are, very concerned about engagement and about how they're going to onboard employees and help them feel grafted in and a part of their organization. So all those things combined, it's not going away. I do think I will add to this, and that's not just to piggyback off your session this morning, but I do think automation of all that is becoming more of a priority, and people are looking for the services, the tools, the integrations. I know with a lot of our clients, I was joking this, I don't know, maybe with you or somebody else the other day, that it used to be I was an insurance guy and we talk insurance all day long. And I think I talk about insurance
Not much. Yeah.
10 to 20% of my time. But there's so many other dynamics that we're helping our clients deal with as far as attracting and retaining quality employees. So it comes down to that a lot.
People that want to be there and feel balanced is important too.
Yeah.
You know, they want a life at work and outside of work too.
Yeah.
And that's way more important now.
That's awesome. I know I've told you both. My son is on this side of the state, so I saw him last night for dinner. I'll see him again tonight, and I can't wait to talk to him about his and his first job experience. It's a small company, and they're struggling with everything that's going on today, and so they've been cutting benefits, things like 401k contributions and other bits, and he's so conflicted. Well, I shouldn't say that either, but okay, but really, he's like, I know that these things are part of a workplace experience, and I want them. But he really loves the culture, and he loves some of those non-tangible things. And so younger and younger crowds might not weight the benefits stuff as heavily as they weight the culture. Yeah.
They might have a different priority than older people, generations in the past. Yeah.
Okay, so I want to respond to that comment because a couple things come to mind. First of all, we went through a wave there post-COVID where a lot of employers were trying to improve their benefits to attract, and I think we've had a lot of our employer groups asking about voluntary worksite products, other programs that they've asked us. We have benchmark data that through employee surveys that identify what are top of mind program services, etc. that employees have access to at an employer group. So a lot of employers have been adding things. But ironically, this this fall and this upcoming 1/1 renewals, we've seen a lot of heavy increases, which have caused some of our employer groups to take a step back a little bit. And so it's funny, for me, for a while there, we were like, let's go, let's get more, add more, et cetera. And now there's been a little bit of a pause, but I actually see the trend going to enhancing benefits, enhancing programs available to employees, all in the name of trying to drive more employee engagement. I do see that advancing more as we move forward, but I don't know.
You have to be good to your people to keep your people, and people matter.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I think HR leaders know that. So
maybe some of the struggle with that is, what do different generations in the workplace value, right? So my generation, of course, values your 401k and your retirement contributions. Even when we were little, we talked to value that. Well, now younger workforces have different values, and they want these choices, and they want these things that apply to them better today. And so it's so interesting.
Certainly having friends in the workplace and being able to get along with, I will speak for my youngest daughter right now. She just started a new job. And when I listen to her stories, one of the things that stands out to me is how she's getting connected with some of the other employees. And, this employee reached out to me, and we're doing, going out for a drink afterwards with this employee. And I think that interconnectedness, and they want to feel part of something, is very crucial. And so, employers that are aware of that, conscious of that, and providing opportunities for that to happen, I think those are attractive places to be.
even if people work remotely, providing those experiences is important. So they can connect.
Then that's a whole nother level, right?
Yeah.
Like, how do you do that? There are generations that don't want to do that, frankly.
Yeah.
They're not interested in figuring out how to be social, you know, virtually versus the other. And, you know, different generations also value time at home with their kids or their, you know, family, different than younger generations who want to be professionally connected, right?
Yeah. Right.
What a whirlwind of stuff to balance in the marketplace.
Yeah, there's a lot.
And given remote work, it's amazing to me how, something like Teams, Zoom, or whatever, how much more familiar that generation is.
Oh, yeah.
That it's secondhand to them, where they're more quick to jump on a Teams call or quick to and I am usually thinking in my mindset that you've got to plan it and schedule it and for them I feel like it's more spontaneous and more but I think that makes them more efficient in some ways and they're go-getters. They get things done. So
yeah, and I think all generations can learn from each other.
Yeah. For sure. I think certainly I get teased at this in our office. I'm not
He gets teased a lot.
I'm not the biggest IT guy, so for them to show me how to do things more efficiently and stuff like that, I appreciate it. I learn from it. So it's helpful. So I don't know, we're rambling, but I don't know if it's helpful.
No, that's all right. It's just about having conversations and what's happening and what people are making noise about in HR. I thought, our keynote speaker for this event was Jim Link, and his write-up just made me think right from the start, and it actually really fit quite well with some of the things we were talking about with HR technology and AI. But his write-up started with how you adapt will dictate the future of your success, and that you have to explore AI in your toolkit to get the full potential value of HR, and that's frightening for many of us, right? Why? Why do I have to?
I know.
Yeah. Change.
So I don't know. Are there ways other than the big COVID ways, the Teams in the workplace, and the more video conferences? Are there other ways or things or tools that have been interjected into, your workplace that just make you think, oh, that's it, and it's not so frightening? It's almost Halloween, so it's not so scary.
I just think you have to adapt, and I always have felt that being able to adapt is a great quality to have because life changes, and the workforce changes. And you just have to have an open attitude about it.
Lots of conversations about resilience.
Yeah.
Topics on resilience, right? And being able to bounce back and move forward.
Yeah.
As being a key item. Awesome. Okay. Well, let's take a break. I thank you guys for just sharing your perspective on the conference, and look forward to other ones with you in the future since we're state mates.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Julie.
Optimize your business with a Workforce AI Edge powered by Visier. Make smarter decisions and achieve better outcomes with real-time AI insights delivered to every people leader. Explore more at visier.com.
While we're here, I'd love to know a little bit about what you're hearing people talk about, and where you think some of the conversations are going, and what's most interesting to HR practitioners today.
Yeah, I think your session on AI was very timely. I love the parts where you calmed them down a little bit by saying with the statistics on that, half of people aren't doing much right now, and so you're not that far behind. You don't have to get worried. I think I looked around the room and saw some relieved faces. But really in our space, the majority of the conversations right now, whether we have a ton of manufacturing, we have a ton of, not in the really large space out of our Detroit office, more in that 50 to 500. There's been a heavy focus on employee engagement. And so we've been trying to help them find strategies to get the employees in a better place, not only to be smarter consumers of healthcare, but also to appreciate the huge spend that the employers are making on their behalf.
Oh, yeah, right? That's still not super well known. I mean, not everybody has gotten the total reward statement or understand the cost. And it happens that we weren't prime open enrollment time, right? So this is probably the worst time of the year for a lot of us to be cutting out and kicking it at a conference.
It is. It's an important time. I think it's a nice relief for the HR folks, even though that a lot of them are 1-1 renewals in the middle. I think they come here as to get a little break, have a little fun, come educated on things. But yeah, it's a big topic right now. It's something we've worked on really over the summer and talking with our clients, like how are we going to engage them differently going into this upcoming open enrollment season.
Yeah, so talk a little bit with me about what some of those key strategies are, or, let's maybe take a couple of them and break them down a little bit, because everybody wants to know, what can I do to get this better engagement? It's a great time to engage my employees, and we do spend a lot on benefits as employers. So what are some of your top tips and tricks and things that you think people are interested in?
Yeah, so I mean, the biggest thing, we are a reseller of several HRIS systems, so Employee Navigator, bSwift, and those things, and getting them to interact in a better way. That's the first step. That's the low-hanging fruit, is you already paid for the system, you already have it in place, but people aren't utilizing it. You're doing either passive enrollments instead of active enrollments. We're not capturing their attention during the open enrollment piece. So that's usually a start, is changing the way we use our current technology.
Right.
And let's figure out a new strategy of how we engage with our folks, and what we choose to put on there, how we do pre-education before open enrollment, besides the email that says it starts Monday. But what do we do the month before and the month before and the month before to have them more interested, and then product offerings and different things to start suiting like what their needs are, having a large portfolio of benefit options,
Yeah.
knowing that most populations have people that are a couple years away from retirement and a couple years out of school.
Yeah, yeah.
And how do you reach those two different people, and how do you make sure that your strategy is aligned with having options where they all feel equally heard inside the organization?
Right, right. And the choices, you know, we got into a little bit of that just earlier with Amy and Kevin, just the multi-generations and trying to appeal to all of them and how they have such different needs. So are employers, do you see employers broadening their elections? Like what sorts of tricks are they using? And do you see that continuing, or do you see a little bit of a pullback and tightening of the belt?
I see, I see that it's not going away. The work population is like, the demographics are changing for sure. And so it's either you get prepared for that and adapt to that, or you're going to be in some troubles years from now if you don't know how to engage with the new population, the new wave of people coming into the workforce. I think most of employers we work with are on board with that concept, and they are trying to develop strategies, whether it is, technology for some to utilize, or other options that may be more manual for others, without burdening the HR team. Trying to make sure that they have a suite of, I'm seeing more and more, the employee surveys, engagement surveys, and things going out post open enrollment to talk about their experience, so then we can develop
dangerous.
Yeah, it is. But the negative feedback is valuable too. Like inside the organization, if you have the opportunity to retain an employee by a negative feedback that you take, and then you implement a strategy to turn that into a different feeling from that person, that might keep you from having to hire for that position, 6 months from now.
That's right.
Because you listen, and then you implement different things. So it derives from that post-OE experience, and then creating the strategy going forward, whether it be, using that technology, doing a lot of using our vendor partners. Winston Benefits is, inside of our organization, and they do a great job with their call centers, their one-on-one enrollers, like all these ways to make sure you're communicating the benefits effectively, but giving everybody a form of access that makes them feel that they can understand the products and be a good part of the solution.
It's still scary. It's still frightening, and people still feel like they really don't always understand their choices.
Yep.
It's pretty complex. It's the one time a year that all three of my 20-somethings call me.
Can you look at this? What should I choose?
What does this mean? Am I in the right thing still? I don't really know. So, I think you earlier told me, too, that you're seeing some strategies where folks are bringing back some of those on-site meetings or counselors or, folks. And it's great if a lot of companies use passive enrollment, right? But the active enrollment actually puts that spend and that investment in the employee back to the forefront. And see that. Do you see a lot with total reward statements? I see people, companies thinking about, how do I explain the value of these things to my employees?
We've been trying that. There's some employers, and it depends on the culture, privately owned or whatever organization, and what their history and what they, want to stand for. Some want to just do that and not put it in employees' face. Other ones would like to put that number in front of it. So usually inside of our bin admin systems that we have, we can print out a total, statement of, and historically a lot of those have only included employees' contributions.
Yeah.
Now we're seeing more people add the column, the total cost.
That's right.
So that they can see that and be like, wow. And so that is one of the main areas that people are appreciating, and using those counselors to do that one-on-one time with folks. And then The other strategy I've been using quite a bit, and our teammates, is insurance committees.
Yeah.
It's crazy enough. It's such a complex world, and majority of consumers don't understand how insurance works. And so education starting inside the organization, where you pick some key people outside of the C-suite or outside of the HR folks, and you say, we just want to help you bring in an outside party like ourselves. We just want to help you understand insurance so that you can keep making decisions together year over year. You can feel good about the decisions you make. We can get feedback on the options that your population wants. We don't always know that. Not everybody fills out the survey. Not everybody wants to participate, but those insurance committees have allowed them to understand insurance at a deeper level. And then as they're talking in the break room, or they're talking on the floor, or they're talking at the hospital, they are starting to ask questions, and then that feedback comes back to us. And we use that as well to develop the program to make sure everybody feels good about it.
Awesome. Well, it's right before Halloween, and anything to do with the insurance world is so spooky for me. I have to tell you. And it's crazy because many people might not know, but I got my start working for MetLife, believe it or not.
Okay.
Had nothing to do with insurance, but we were building these shared service centers in
Yeah.
HR. And so I was part of that world and not at all part of it. And here I am again in the same situation. And I got to say, I just admire what you guys do. You're an amazing resource. And I can't explain at all how that model works, but I do know that many folks do rely on their broker communities to help educate them in this space and help make sure that they're thinking about the complexities and tying it out to the culture conversations that we had with Amy and Kevin, and to the technology that you and I are talking about. And so thank you guys for everything that you do. And it's exciting that you and so many others are here live at the Michigan SHRM.
Yeah, no.
Any last thoughts on what's going on or what to say? Otherwise, thanks for letting me snatch you into a quiet corner and have a conversation.
No, I think really appreciate the time and everything you're doing. And I will say to your last point that 15 years ago when I started in this industry, we were just selling insurance.
Yeah.
And I sometimes, there's days I'm like, I just want to sell some insurance, But our role, the broker role, has become so much more complex to every piece of population health and claims and data and all these things. And so it's the selling insurance part is the easiest part of our jobs now. It's all the compliance and the legislative things and blah, blah, blah. So it's,
you know what? You've just rattled off probably 6 blah, blah, blah things that we have not had topics for.
Yeah.
On our podcast yet. So at some point in time, Pete and I will have to go back through the list because we really focus a lot on payroll, a lot on HR, and a little bit less on benefits. So thanks for sharing some time here in crazy open enrollment at the wonderful Michigan SHRM event. Thanks,
Thank you.
PJ.
Thank you.
All right. Hello, everyone. I'm here with a super special guest to me, my son, Nico. Nico, why don't you introduce yourself and include your age, because you're my voice of Gen Z Zoomers, and what you do for a living these days.
Yeah. So thanks, Mom, for having me on. I am an embedded software engineer at a small engineering services company out of Grand Rapids, Michigan. I'm 24. I've been at the company for a couple years now, came straight out of college at Grand Valley State University. I'm supposedly the voice of Gen Z here. So I'll try and do my best to represent.
Okay, yeah, represent, dude. Because I got 3 of you, and and you certainly aren't afraid to tell me what you think. So
yeah,
we're going to roll with that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, since you're in Grand Rapids, I was out there at this Michigan SHRM event recently, and we got a couple of nights dinner together, which was totally awesome. And I told you that, I thought it'd be great if we talked a little bit about the stuff I was hearing at the conference. And at that time, it was, and it kind of still is a little bit for many companies, all hands on deck. And, it's open enrollment time and everybody's picking their benefits or letting their benefits ride. And so I wanted to see if you would, kind of share some observations on that season, benefit season with us. And is that cool? Did you actually have an active enrollment where you had to re-enroll, or sometimes it's passive and you just do nothing unless you want to make changes?
It's so funny because our enrollment season actually is prepping for July is when we swap. July 1st is when our insurance rolls over to the new insurance. And we had to do an active enrollment this year. So I've actually done 2 active enrollments, but active enrollment this year because we were doing some insurance shopping our company is like strapped for like kind of overhead costs, like where could we save? So we switched from Blue Cross Blue Shield Michigan to Cigna or Priority Health. And so we had to engage this time. So I did another open enrollment. We used Paycor as our service to do that. And it was pretty streamlined, super easy to pick between the plans, descriptions of all the plans without having to read the PDF. You could download it if you wanted to, but I thought it was very streamlined. But I am also probably more literate in the space than most people. I think I asked our director of HR more questions than anyone else who starts at the company fresh out of college.
Yeah, proud mama moment here.
Yeah.
I know I've turned you into total geeks and you even know what open enrollment or active and passive is. But
yes.
Do you remember when you were first comparing jobs and accepting jobs? And you know, I've joked maybe a time or two that's when my kids, you know, like first realized, oh crap, mom knows something, you know, like maybe I better, and like I've had very detailed benefits review sessions with each of you, but tell me what you remember about, you know, comparing job offerings and, you know, what was attractive about things. What were you thinking back in the day, way back, not that many years ago?
Yes. Yeah. So when I remember we had 3 offers on the table that we were kind of debating between out of college. And there were some that were more attractive with base pay and yearly like incentives or like a yearly bonus or quarterly profit sharing bonus. So for the compensation structure, I was looking for a better base salary with some kind of profit sharing bonus. There was one company that offered equity in the ballpark of like 8% of your yearly salary, but I think one of the things I didn't like is that they used that as a bargaining chip to lower base pay in general. So there were 2 that were like on par for their base pay, and then this other one that offered equity was a substantial amount lower, probably like $7,000 lower annual salary. But the equity kind of like the mathed, and it was like supposedly better. But equity, it was a publicly traded company, so their stock, you know, fluctuated, went up and down. They had pretty good years, and they also had profit sharing on top of that. So I remember just looking at that, the compensation package, and being like, okay, what matters? Then we were also looking at some of the softer benefits. The work that I'm at right now, I remember that I really liked their office location, their office space, the hybrid approach that they had. I mean, I am in the office pretty much 5 days a week. I just take the occasional day from home if my car's in the shop or if for some reason it works out better in my personal life outside of work. But I wanted to have the option. There were some that it was 5 days a week and kind of a little less wiggle room. And it's not like that was a bad thing for me because I like to be in the office, but it definitely is nice to have the flexibility. We also had like core hours, which is really interesting for me. So I really enjoyed this soft benefit that my current company has that I saw when we were kind of juggling the offers. And the core hours is a concept of like, okay, if you have different projects that you're on and not everyone's on the same project, not everyone has to follow the same schedule. We have clients in different time zones and stuff like that. So you just had to be online or in the office between the hours of 10 and 3, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Eastern and available. But outside of that, you could work 7 a.m. to 3. You could work 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Like wherever your 8 hours fell in and out side of those core hours is on you, and you're able to do that. So I really liked having that flexibility, as well as they have another soft benefit called Flex Fridays, which I take full advantage of, which is working 9-hour days instead of 8-hour days. And if you work 9 nines, so Monday through Friday 1 week, Monday through Thursday the next week, because we're on bi-weekly pay schedule, you get to take off every other Friday. So that's like 26 extra PTO days. So I take long weekends. I go back to the east side to visit you and dad. So like it's very helpful for me to kind of take more advantage of life outside of work to have that. So I remember there was this other company that with the third one that was in the running was a little bit north of Kalamazoo. And so I was like, oh, that's a huge commute. So commute kind of mattered because I wanted to be in the office. So, and I wanted to stay in Grand Rapids. I really liked the area, and all the offers were kind of on the west side of Michigan. So yeah, those were some of the first initial considerations just with the on-paper offers that I was kind of juggling between.
Awesome. Awesome. And all of them had kind of similar, like basic benefits. And, were there major differences from a benefits perspective?
Yeah, well, I guess at that time, we didn't know that the company I'm at right now would become an ESOP. So that wasn't on the paper, but they did advertise that they had an HSA plan, that the company contributed like heavily to the yearly allowance to contribute to your HSA plan, the company I'm at right now. And then they were introducing softer benefits like volunteer PTO, the minimum tuition reimbursement of like whatever the IRS reimburses you for. It's like around like $5,000 a year per person. So they were introducing some of those benefits right around when I was getting actually onboarded. So I didn't know about that on paper. So on paper, they did have mostly the same benefits. My work went with a safe harbor 3% instead of an employer match, which was cool because my strategy was to invest in my Roth IRA while I'm in a lower tax bracket. So I was like, cool, safe harbor 3% means I can prioritize my IRA as opposed to my traditional 401k. So that was cool for me. I appreciated that as opposed to like needing to contribute 5-6% to get their whatever 3% on top, 3 to 5% on top. So yeah, they had the basic stuff, but I mean, it was structured in a way that I think was beneficial to me and my life and the way I wanted to organize some of those financial benefits.
Cool. So, hey, most of your workforce at this place is pretty young. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, I'd say the ones that I interact with on a regular basis are probably the younger demographic within my work. Yes.
Okay. All right. So I know you have quite a bunch of, younger engineers. And what I'm dying to talk to you about today is just like, what's the coffee talk about, these sorts of things with others in your age group? And, do they think about these things? Are they knowledgeable about these things? Are there certain things that they're like, yeah, right on, like this is really important to me, and other things not so much? Like, what do you hear kind of in your demographic?
Yeah.
Since you're the voice of Gen Z today.
Yeah. I feel like I want to preface this with maybe there's some bias because I do think that there's some attention to detail with just like, I guess, the way engineers stereotypically are. They're very analytical. So a lot of my friends, my young colleagues are also engineers. So they're very in the paperwork. They care a lot about their total compensation package, their total picture. I know since I've been at the company, I've had people like go to other companies in the area that I still maintain friendships with outside. So I can speak to kind of some of their reasons for jumping or what they cared about when they made their moves, because that was a huge, kind of comparative to like what they were getting at my current company versus what they wanted. So I had a friend that was that went to Stryker in Portage, which is around Kalamazoo in Michigan. And they have really good mentorship programs, really good tuition reimbursement programs. My company had started the tuition reimbursement program, but had to drop it as like optional benefits that we had to like cut costs on. So they're looking to get higher education. That was important to them. Had some people go to a nearby company also. Gentex, similar reason. They also do tuition reimbursement. They also had in office every day. So they had a stricter policy, less flexibility. I know that matters to some of my coworkers that have like more kids, because sometimes like kids get snow days, and what do you do when that happens? Can't don't want to pay for childcare, or both parents are working or something like that. Yeah. It's very important to them. They're mostly in the office, but they want that ability to call the shots, ad hoc whenever they have those problems arise or a kid gets sick or something like that. See it all the time. Yeah. But for the younger people, they like hybrid. All of my engineering friends, because engineering, especially in the embedded space, is very hands-on. Right. They're all either hybrid or in office all the time. There is no kind of like fully remote space for specifically the field that I'm in. Okay. So a lot of them do enjoy a hybrid work schedule, especially those that have to commute. I have another buddy who went over to Traeger in Kalamazoo, and he also enjoys hybrid work schedule. So for those longer commutes, they're going to be looking for some type of hybrid schedule just so that they don't have to do that commute every day. Because if you can minimize a 45-minute commute from Grand Rapids to Kalamazoo down to 3 days a week, that's going to be a huge benefit to them. It makes the option a lot more attractive for them to go. So it's not that they don't like going into the office, but if the commute, because they've purchased houses in Grand Rapids because they used to work at my company, don't want to get up and move like the city or whatever, hybrid is going to be a huge kind of like attractive aspect of the job description for them.
Yeah, makes sense.
And then I've got I had a friend, actually my roommate, he left my company as well, and he ended up at a fully remote job. I think the job's out of Connecticut or something like that, but he's still in the embedded space. So they actually ship him all of the parts and all of the hardware that he ends up working on. But he likes it a lot because he has the flexibility to kind of be at home or be away. Like I know he's definitely worked, out of Chicago, or he takes a trip to North Carolina. He has some more flexibility to be around the country. Granted, it's like Eastern Standard Time is when the company is operating out of. So it's like take into consideration some of that time zone stuff. But for the most part, it's really about that. There have been some people who have been trying to I would say like snipe equity in a company. I had a buddy who went to a startup in San Francisco. I just got back from visiting him, but he is getting private equity in his company, and that's a huge attractive feature for him. He also gets his Cali salary, which is better, but he has a house in Michigan that he can use to offset some of his housing costs. So it's really a good setup for him to make kind of that disparity between Michigan and California kind of work to his advantage for him living out there. And then he gets his private equity, and he's looking pretty good with the company that he's at right now, doing some ocean sensor technology. So it really depends kind of which benefits people are looking towards. But I would say that, some of that flexibility does matter a lot more at, I guess, my friends, my circle of people. I think we're just doing a lot of activities, want to travel. Maybe, I want to shoot down and see my sister in Sarasota and just work that week remote, and then take a flight back that's convenient so I get to spend more time with her. That's a huge attractive option for me. And I think in the work that I'm doing right now with the project that I'm on currently, that's available to me to do something a little more remote, a little more away from the office. So it's not always available, but when it is, it's nice to take advantage of that.
Yeah, that's fun to hear. I know you might not even remember, but before you guys were out searching for your first jobs, you've seen me work remote, fully remote, and then travel wherever you need to travel your whole lives. And I distinctly recall asking each of you what you think about remote work. And my daughter, your sister, was like, yeah, I need to be with people. I couldn't sit in a room and do this forever. And you were always so wonderfully honest. You were like, I don't think I'm going to do any work.
I don't.
That's hilarious.
I don't. Yeah.
And I don't even remember what the youngest said, because I think he was just not at the point where he realized he was going to have to work someday. So there was no response there at all. Yeah, cool. Hey, so I hear and see an awful lot of companies that are really trying to do some innovative things, especially in the, to make work really enjoyable, to attract people. And in truth, since last year, I think people were, companies were piling new innovative things on, and maybe they're starting to pull those back now, whether it's for reasons like, we're small and we need to cost save, or just, not sure how much of an uptick we're getting out of this. Let me rattle off a couple and let me know if any of these you're hearing talk of, or, are creating kind of a stir in your circles. I hear, lifestyle benefits where, maybe there's like a pot of money that you can use to reimburse, yoga classes, or, some education that might not be like, your typical education reimbursement, or something that's important to you, or, voluntary stuff like pet insurance for people that are all pet, crazy, and that's a value to them, or paying off school loans, right? You're in that age group.
Absolutely. So I think that I don't know that they've called it lifestyle benefits, but like fitness kind of benefits
Yep.
or some kind of stipend for gym, workout programs, Pilates, that kind of thing is attractive to people at my age. I know I belong to a fitness center club that's local to Grand Rapids, and it is pretty expensive. But I like to have indoor courts. I like to play basketball and various sports games oriented. So I want that. And I know if my work offered that, it would be a huge plus to me. They don't currently, but I know other people in the area that do get a stipend for gym memberships or, classes for things like that. And I do envy them in that sense quite a bit. Now, I do have that friend that's in San Francisco, has unlimited PTO. And I mean, unlimited PTO is, I have seen it used as like a huge benefit to people who kind of are able to complete their tasks and are on top of their things, because ultimately that's what they need you for. They need you to complete your tasks. And if you're not completing your tasks, well, they need you to still finish those tasks. And if work's not getting done, then it really is heavily discouraged to go. So I think unlimited PTO is good and bad, right? My buddy said that his manager says, hey, like it is technically unlimited PTO, but kind of watch it if you're going over 20 days. So there is a thing. So if you're like super high on the seniority chain and you've got whatever 5 weeks PTO or something like that, going to an unlimited PTO company might not be as good because you're used to like 2 whole months that you can kind of distribute across the year, and they're not okay with that, or they might be expecting something less. Like there is kind of some hidden expectations, and you just have to kind of sniff it out by talking to your managers. So it's a little more convoluted in that sense. I know some people that like assigned PTO because it's like they take it and they don't get bugged on it, and they're allowed to do it. They feel like they give it to themselves. You've earned it. You've accrued it, and it makes sense. Whereas unlimited PTO, it's a little more like pretty please with a cherry on top. Can I go a week to the Swiss Alps and go ski with my friends? Please. And it's just, and people be like, it's a little more discretionary where they're like, actually, we don't think that that's, appropriate given our project deadlines and how much we need you and whatever. It just seems a little more subjective. So I've heard it both ways, but then I know some people who take full advantage of it, and some more PTO than I'm allotted currently. We have fixed PTO, and I'll earn it after X amount of years. I'll get a little bump for sure, but right now it's like unlimited PTO. I would definitely have more days off than I'm currently allotted. So I use things like Flex Fridays and stuff like that to kind of leverage how much time I get away from work. So it's good though. I think that they are definitely talking about some of those things.
Hey, this is William Tincup, and you should know about the You Should Know podcast. It's a topical, fun podcast with Ron, myself, and a guest, or guests, plural sometimes, and we tackle the most timely topics of the day. Give it a look, give it a listen, and subscribe. Thanks.
Awesome. Well, I wanted to talk a little bit too about the culture of the workplace. So I know you're in a hands-on place. You happen to have a lot of young folks that are there as well, and so that gives some social, some social bump benefits, right? And we both know you had a friend who went in a different path entirely and got herself a very good position in a large company. So definitely solid base pay, maybe even above what you would think you would get as an entry level position, and found yourself in a work environment that didn't have a lot of folks of the same generation and some of that. So where do you see people falling on that spectrum of, we're workplaces with 5 generations of folks. It's maybe not, normal to end up with all of one or all of the other, but what kind of scuttlebutt is there about that in amongst your Gen Zs?
Yeah. I know I cultivated a little bit of jealousy from my peer circle, because when I first started at my current company, I started our rec league, and we would do things together, like all the young employees would do things like dodgeball, kickball, volleyball. We'd go grab drinks after or before, like have a little bit of social time if the games were later and we were all carpooling from the office or something like that. Had a lot more camaraderie. I still hang out with those people. There's a few that are not at the company anymore, and I'm still very close with them because we were able to develop actual like friendships that transcended just the workplace. And I know that I have friends that were not able to. I had a friend that went out to Pennsylvania to work on satellite technology for engineering and wasn't able to have the same kind of connections, didn't find that same camaraderie in the workplace. So what do you have to do? You have to go do stuff outside of work, but it's a new place, it's a new location. It's kind of hard to get connected, and workplace sometimes can be like an anchor for people that are moving out for work specifically to meet people and then get connected into their social circles. I know my friend that just went out to San Francisco and I just visited him. There's a few circles that he has that is by virtue of his work. So having the younger generation to help get you plugged into activities that you're interested in. I remember recruiting for the rec league, and every coworker that I was very friendly with, had a really good rapport with in the office that had kids, immediately said, sorry, no. Like if it comes to doing a rec league with coworkers that I get to see every day, I'm gonna pick hanging out with my kids every time, and I can't even blame them. I can't even be like, oh come on, I would love to see you play volleyball. It's like, no, go be with your kids. Like that makes 100% sense. So it's definitely, you need to rally the young people before they get in those situations where they have kids and families to think about, and they really care about spending more time away from the people at work. Not that there's anything wrong with their coworkers. It's just, it's harder. It's harder.
Priorities at different stages in life, right? I had the good fortune when I started my career at MetLife, there were several of us of the same age group and very, very active, and we did tons of social things together. So I had a similar experience at the beginning of my career. And now that I'm in a different place, it doesn't sound so fun.
Yeah.
So you can, they're just different times of your life, right? Totally. So awesome. Let's see. What didn't I ask you about yet? I didn't want to end this call without asking or talking a little bit about the topic of retirement savings, because you mentioned that a little bit earlier on.
Yep.
And, kind of your strategy, and it's important to you to put some things away, for a rainy day and for later in life. And I'm pretty sure you told me, I don't think everybody values this the same, so if it goes away or gets reduced in hard times, like that didn't matter as much to, everyone as maybe it matters to you. Did I catch that right? Like, how did that all play out?
Absolutely. Yeah. So, my company's been, under some fluctuation. They had to cut a lot of overhead costs. A lot of those softer benefits went away. And some of those elective benefits, like contributions to retirement accounts, has been minimized, reduced, or just kind of completely set to discretionary distributions, at the discretion of my employer. So I, probably felt that a lot harder than a lot of the younger people at my company, because I just understand the time in the market is everything. And so, even if my salary is less, so technically a percentage cut of that in compensation in your retirement account is going to be numerically less. The fact that I have 30 years left in the workforce, and for that to grow, meant that personally for me, I took it up out of my own salary. So when they cut those benefits, I cut my salary, and I made up for what they weren't contributing to those accounts anymore. So I picked up to max out my HSA and picked up on my 401k contributions, just to kind of level out the playing field there, and trying to max out my Roth. It's hard. I'm in a fortunate position to be a young engineer literally renting a single bedroom in a friend's duplex, half of his duplex. So I'm positioned very well for saving and investing strategy. I know not a lot of people might have the same experience just with their salary, can't put away as much, can't afford to take that much out of their pay to enhance their retirement benefits. But so I know if I was looking at that and I was like, oh my gosh, I don't have the money to be putting away those benefits, I really need my work to pick that up. And if a work had a really competitive contributions to my retirement, that would matter to me as a young person. Why? Because if the savvy of exponential growth and rates when you have time in the market, you would understand right now, if you put in a lot, you're going to have just that much more. And every 10 years, right, like matters significantly. So if you wait till you're 30 to care about those retirement benefits, it's going to be a huge detriment to you. So I think I was a lot more passionate than a lot of the people. I was very, I've been talking to my HR director a lot. And it's interesting because just speaking plainly, like we had our compensation frozen and we're kind of saving, cost saving. And it's interesting because as our benefits were cut back, the first thing to come back is compensation, and hopefully compensating people for kind of like the time that they had been holding down the fort.
That's right.
And then I was kind of like, well, benefits, like why is that kind of not roped into bringing back compensation? And the director was kind of like, well, with compensation, it's like discretionary, right? So like if you need the money in your wallet, you can use it in your wallet. If you need that money and then you direct deposit to your retirement accounts or up your retirement contribution to your 401k, like you kind of get to decide if we kind of bring back your base pay and raise your salary, as opposed to like bringing back things that can only be used for that benefit, like HSA contributions, 401k contributions.
Right.
So it was interesting to me to kind of see it from that lens of like, okay, we're going to bring back salary hikes because then people can kind of decide what they want to do with it. And so that makes total sense to me. And I do know that they have a high priority for, bringing benefits back for everyone, those closer to retirement, and also for younger people like me who are kind of advocating for it from a trying to have an investment heavy financial strategy. So it's been interesting. I feel like I've kind of gained some camaraderie with like some of the older people at my company because we kind of are concerned about the same things, but for different reasons. And it's like really this interestingly enough unifying thing. I've seen people who have kids that are super concerned about their retirement as well as like their FSAs and things like that because they don't have the money out of their paychecks because they're using it for their childcare, for their kids, putting them through school or whatever. And then really they're relying on work to help them with retirement. And we used to have things like pensions, right? And it's, you don't see that kind of stuff anymore. So like having 401k as a substitute to that really means that there's some kind of dependency on contributions from your employer. Like some people heavily rely on that. So I know my brother who's at Ford, he definitely has a really good 401k contribution policy that does have me jealous a lot of times, but I understand why. He works at a super large company that's able to give really good benefits in exchange for being, under a lot of administrative burden, and you can't move as agile through his job. He's a finance guy and I'm an engineer, and I know I've worked with clients that have big companies and it's harder to get things through. There's a lot of process. I can talk to the people because I know them, and it's a lot more interpersonal, conversational, get things done a lot faster. So I don't know. It just kind of depends, right?
Yeah.
How you weigh those things out.
It's a great look or a great insight into the fact that, you're even this soon in your career, between yourself, your siblings, and your broader network of friends, and then coworkers who are outside of your own age group, you really get a great exposure to, the trade-offs and the values and different cultural impacts and how that personally affects you or affects somebody else. And the same for every aspect of your value, your employment value, right? Which is, kind of the whole point. And it's really what people in the HR departments are talking about when open enrollment time comes around. And I hope that will be surprised that, that all ages and all generations in their workforce probably think about this as much as, anyone else, that it affects the younger Gen Zs and soon enough the alphas, right? As much as it affects those of us that have been here for a while.
Yeah. And, I feel like I want to add a little ditty about HSAs because I think I found myself like, I definitely do have a habit of like looking on LinkedIn, looking at posts, looking at jobs, kind of what's available, what's the going rate for me as an engineer in the market that I'm in. So in Grand Rapids or remote jobs that are available. And one thing that I found myself like really loving was like my HSA, but it's because I understand like the tax implications of it. Thank you, Mom. And and you realize like, oh, in order to be eligible to contribute, like you need a high deductible PPO plan. And so finding companies that it's like, oh my gosh, we have great health insurance here. And it's like, well, does that mean I sacrifice my HSA? And now it's just like this golden goose egg that I really can't touch anymore. And that kind of sucks. So I found myself kind of considering that as I see kind of like, imagine like, oh, like maybe I could see myself working here or working there or changing kind of like the what I am working on as an engineer. And I found that to be like, it takes up a disproportionately sized piece of the pie when I'm considering like what I want to do. And it's just funny. It's just funny
Didn't
to think
expect
about
it, did
that.
ya?
No, I didn't expect it, but I mean, it's working out great for me. And I think it's a huge benefit that I've come to enjoy, especially while you're healthier. So like,
Yeah.
you might care a lot about lower deductibles as you have more health complications, more bills. But like while I'm young and I'm healthy and I'm not really paying that much for doctor's visits, just proactive yearly checkups, things that are covered and I have low copays on, I am using the heck out of a benefit like an HSA. So maybe something to consider for Gen Z people is that they tend to be healthier. They care more about fitness stipends and probably something more akin to like HSA if they're want to use tax investing, like tax haven investing as part of their financial strategy. That might matter. So
Awesome.
it matters to me when I crunch the numbers for sure. So I would think that there might be like-minded Gen Z individuals out there. I hope there are because it's awesome.
Because otherwise you're an odd duck, kid.
Yeah, you might have created something that's a little strange for like, I don't know. You can't really call it an old soul. Maybe just has that mindset going right into the workforce. So it's like the things that I've surprised my director of HR with just by asking about or caring about disproportionately to the rest of my younger coworkers has been funny. It's been a fun experience for sure. We have a lot of impromptu one-on-ones that she is not expecting most of the time. It's funny.
That's awesome. Hey, just wait. She'll be coming in and knocking on your door saying, I have this idea and I need to bounce it off somebody who overthinks that kind of this stuff. So
yeah.
I'll talk to you, Nico. Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for making the time and being open and transparent. That's your nature. I wouldn't expect anything less. And I've had so much fun having these conversations and watch you guys all, get into the stuff and recognize it's part of life, adult life. And so thanks for sharing it and for being my voice of Gen Z again.
Yeah, no problem. Anytime. I'm sure there'll be some topic that someone talks about that you think I might have some weird or unique perspective on again. So I'm sure it won't be the last time, but happy to keep my ear to the ground and be talking to my friends. It's funny. A lot of them are coming to me now about advice on their benefits or their retirement investing or just like kind of what they want because of the literacy that I have at this young early stage, and maybe because they're not comfortable kind of exposing the fact that they're vulnerable in that sense or haven't had that education yet. So it's been cool. It's like you're a lighthouse for other like-minded young individuals in the workplace.
Yeah, trying to figure things out.
Exactly. So
That's right. Awesome. Thanks a lot. I'm sure we'll do it again sometime.
Sounds good.